And we return to Zanskar, the last place on Earth, next Sunday at 7:15. This Thursday, from the nearer world about us, a look back at the spring just ended, at its delights and at some of its mysteries. Why do some birds fly north to nest here, and others fly even farther towards the Arctic? Why is the woodland floor in flower, while the trees have yet to leaf? Well, the rites of spring, on Thursday at 8:10 in The World About Us. In 10 minutes, our dance month continues with the Royal Ballet's Romeo and Juliet, starring Rudolf Nureyev and Margot Fonteyn. First, the news on 2 with Richard Whitmore. It's 6.5 minutes past 8.
Rebel militia patrol the Pacific island of Espiritu Santo amid reports of growing violence. Rebels are said to have attacked and destroyed a number of buildings, including a primary school, as well as cars and trucks left behind by those who had been evacuated. The Central New Hebrides government in Port Vila still wants Britain and France to intervene, and 3 more British military advisors have just arrived there. Espiritu Santo's main town, Luganville, is said to be quiet, and as first pictures from there show, French settlers who support the rebellion are allowed to move about freely. A report from Jim Biddulph.
The streets of Luganville, the main town, are closely patrolled by irregulars of the rebel regime, some of them with odds and ends of confiscated uniforms. They're quick to pounce on a strange face, and strangers in Luganville are noticeable. Although most of the shops are open, it's a quiet place, and now the population is noticeably thin. The British school is deserted. The children all evacuated to Port Vila, more than 100 miles away. But the French school still thrives. Many of the parents of these children are 3rd or 4th generation settlers who have no intention of moving. British and French flags still fly, although the rebels say Britain has no function here. A central government blockade has brought all trade to a standstill, which infuriates the leader of the rebellion, Jimmy Stevens. Is he worried that Britain and France might send troops?
That's rubbish. Troops for what? You got no right to send your troops here because this place is not for British, it's not for French, it's not for one of your people, it's for us, it's for the native. And send troops for what? We don't make any fight. Send troops because you're shooting us with your shell. Yeah, troops bring you people out because they fire us 3-4 times, but no law got any right to send troops here to arrest us because we're fighting for our right. We're fighting for our right. And if troops just come to say, we must stop, sorry, I think something wrong with the government because everybody got, in our custom, we said everyone respect each other, like every individual, right for all. And as it is now, we fight for our right.
Britain and France are supposed to hand this island over to the central government. The only way may be to send troops across these beaches to end the rebellion.
The Shadow Foreign Secretary, Mr. Peter Shaw, has entered the growing argument over whether the Labour Party should be committed to leaving the common market. Mr. Shaw, in a statement, said that there were few issues on which the party was more united than on its policy towards the EEC. 3 other former Labour ministers, Mr. William Rogers, Dr. David Owen and Mrs. Shirley Williams, yesterday denounced anti-market moves as irresponsible, opportunistic and short-sighted. But today, Mr. Shaw said, if there are those who cannot learn the lessons of experience or who have irretrievably transferred their loyalties from their own people to European institutions, that is a matter for profound regret, but they will not be allowed to veto or to stand in the way. In Northern Ireland, an army bomb disposal officer was badly injured by an IRA bomb, one of a series of bombings during the night. It happened in Dungannon. And in Londonderry, a car bomb extensively damaged shops and offices. The bombings were part of a recent upsurge in violence after a comparative lull. Norman Stockton reports.
4 bomb attacks in the early hours of this morning kept the Army's bomb teams in the west of the province at full stretch, and it was while attempting to defuse a blast incendiary device at a country grocer shop near Dungannon in Tyrone that the officer was badly hurt. He was thrown from the building in a sheet of flame when it detonated as he was handling it. And in Londonderry city centre, another Army technical officer escaped with his life with only seconds to spare when it became obvious that a 3-hour operation to defuse a car bomb wasn't going to succeed. And even after the explosion, which blasted shops, a bank and an office building containing the local BBC radio station Radio Foyle, the same officer had to go back in to defuse 2 of the highly unstable Creamery can bombs which had not detonated.
The Russians have replied angrily to the latest American nuclear alert. For the second time in a week and the third time in 7 months, a computer wrongly indicated that ballistic missiles were heading for the American coast. The scare lasted 3 minutes before defense chiefs realized it was a false alarm and decided not to launch their own military operation. Moscow's reaction: the Americans are suffering from a nuclear persecution complex. They are playing with fire. Our defense correspondent Christopher Wayne reports.
In a way, what happened at the Pentagon last Tuesday and Friday was like a 999 call, which later turned out to be a false alarm. The emergency system was alerted while that first report was being checked out. The faulty computer seems to have misinterpreted one item of the mass of data which is fed in every minute from high-resolution radars and other sensors. Immediately that first warning was received, the Strategic Air Command headquarters at Omaha, Nebraska put American nuclear forces on red alert, which means that fully armed B-52 bombers which would be scrambled after about 4 minutes. B-52s are fairly slow-moving and can easily be recalled. Meanwhile, the computer's alarm was being cross-checked. Spy satellites were ordered to look for telltale heat signals showing missiles being fired. Early warning radars in Britain, Greenland and Alaska were hunting for missile tracks, and other sources, too sensitive for the Americans to discuss, were also checked. None of them confirmed the computer, and after 3 minutes it was agreed this had been a false alarm. 3 minutes is too early in the nuclear attack process for this to be regarded as a narrow escape. It would have taken about 20 minutes for the Americans' own Minuteman missiles to have reached the point where they could have been fired. The same is true of the Poseidon and Polaris submarines, constantly patrolling off the Soviet Union. And in both cases, it would have needed President Carter's personal coded instruction. But in the nuclear balance of terror, there's no room for faulty computers. Every military man knows of